WPPM LP Philadelphia.
I've been waiting a long time for this. I've been waiting so long for this. Knew I was gonna get to tap it back in the beginning. And if you want it, you can have it. You just gotta stick with it. I've been waiting a long time for this. I've been waiting so long for this. Knew I was about to get it way back in the beginning. And if you want it, you can have it. You just gotta stick with it. I've been waiting a long time for this. I deserve it. I've been working and the time is here. Knew it was gonna belong to me way back in the beginning. If you want it, you can have it. You can have it. I've been waiting a long time for this. I deserve it. I've been working and the time is here. Knew it was gonna belong to me way back in the beginning. If you want it, it's there. You just gotta go get it.
It's the Career Seeker Show live on WPPM 106.5 Philadelphia. I'm your host and the world's #1 diversity recruiter, Kenneth L. Johnson, and I've been waiting a long time to bring you the Career Seekers team. Tiffany Southerland, career coach, Alberta Blum, recruitment coach, videographer, Bruce Savage, and together we're your #1 source for job search and career information. We'll be back after the break.
The Career Seeker Show on WPPM FM Philadelphia. Insightful advice for those seeking more than just a job, but a career from the nation's top diversity recruiter, Kenneth L. Johnson. Whether you're starting your career, changing careers, or looking for that next great opportunity, the Career Seeker Show provides a virtual GPS that delivers real career advice that leads you to your career destination.
It's the Career Seeker Show live on WPPM FM 106.5 Philadelphia. I'm your host, Kenneth L. Johnson. Ladies and gentlemen, today I have Mr. Donald Hatter on the show today. Donald, man, thanks for coming out and hanging out with the Career Seeker Show.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Glad to be here. A little bit more about me. Way back when, even back to high school days, I'd listen to speakers like Les Brown, and I knew even though I was going to go to college and get a corporate job, ultimately what I wanted to do was be a motivational speaker.
Okay.
And a couple years ago, so I'd been doing that for a number of years, and a couple years ago decided to really do it full time because I believe in taking the blessings I've been given and combining it with experience and doing some research and being able to present information in a way that's unique, that hopefully people were able to get it and pick up on and feel like they're further to achieving their goals than they would have been. So went out, developed these speeches, almost finished a complete book
of speeches.
The motivational speaking book.
Wow, okay.
I didn't even finish the title. But what I learned is you can go and you can do these presentations and people would get really, really excited, but ultimately it would be short-term enthusiasm. Mm-hmm. So you get people excited at a conference or an association meeting, and as soon as they got back to their job, that's all they thought
that's
about.
All, right.
And I'm like, it's not just me, because if you think about what happens on, let's say, Sunday mornings all across the country, people are in church.
Yes.
Right? They get really excited by the sermon. They don't even leave the parking lot before they're thinking about
sometimes
what's
they're not out of the
Monday
church,
morning.
right? Yeah, right.
Well, yeah, and with the advent of cell phones and things,
Yes.
now you have people in church checking email, which is, that's not really the way you want it.
I'm one of those people. I always, my mother nudged me one day. I'm like, look, I pulled out the Bible on my phone. Like, what are you talking about? I had to flip over the screen and kind of show it out. But I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So ultimately what I decided was, okay, that book that was almost written, let me put it aside. Let me figure out how I can help people with their careers.
Okay.
The first book I wrote was 10 Things Great Sales Leaders Don't Do. And it was really okay, out of all the books and great sales knowledge and experts, here are really 10 things I still see people doing. So whether they were a career sales professional or whether they were an entrepreneur or business owner, it's like, here, look through these. If you're doing any of them, stop doing it.
Okay, so 10 things people, the title of the book was?
10 Things Great Sales Leaders Don't Do.
Okay. But you were giving information on things that people do that they need to stop doing.
Absolutely.
I love it. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And it's like, okay, I'm not trying to teach you a whole new set
right.
Of sales skills. I'm just open the book. If you do none of the things, close the book, you're on your way.
I don't want
some of the things, then maybe you should.
So I don't want to put you on the spot here, but we have a lot of people that are sales professionals that tune into the show. We have a lot of people that may not believe they're sales professionals, but really do operate in a sales role, whether you're a recruiter or whatever it is. Can you share some of those 10 tips that you offered? Can you paraphrase on any of them?
Yeah, so I'll one of them was like the title of the chapter was "Great Sales Leaders Don't Assume Prospects Can't Read," and what that was all about was, I often get messages from vendors on my phone, and the second message will be just following up on the first message, like assuming I didn't read the first message. Right. And as soon as I see that, all the person has really done is told me that what's in the second message is probably about as valuable as what was in that first message, which is why I ignored it. So the whole idea, the whole idea of the chapter was, look, when you're, and this goes across, professions. Well, like if you're communicating with someone, do two things real simple. One, just make sure you spell things correctly.
Yes, indeed.
Sounds simple, but
so for
really
you, is that an immediate, I'm not going to deal with you, like you didn't take the time to proofread this? Because a lot of times that focus, that happens with resumes as well. People have typos on the resume, and I tell them it's over pretty much.
Well, it all depends. It makes me wonder about your follow-through.
Sure, okay.
But the second part, and probably a little bit more important, make sure when you're communicating via email, you actually put something in there so that the person that's receiving it cares about it.
Okay.
We communicate because I want to tell you something, but I don't often sit back and say, okay, why would Kenneth actually care about what I'm? Because once you start doing it that way, then you start realizing maybe I should either reword the email or not send it at all.
This is why we're having this conversation. So this morning I was watching one of the TED Talks, and it was, I guess it was, I can't remember what, why do I want to say Stephen Sinek? This is the Golden Circle TED Talk. Simon Sinek. And I watched that, and I watched another one, but it kind of came down to the why. Why is it that you're doing this? Not I have this product, but why am I selling this product, and why do you need this product? And it seems like that's kind of what you were speaking of right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek. I recommend people look at his TED Talks as well. He's actually referenced in the book.
Oh, really?
Because so much
I love it.
of increasing the perception of your value has to deal with being able to motivate individuals, and you have to get to their why, right? You have to fuel their passion or figure out what they're passionate about if you want to motivate them.
Sure.
And I believe that.
So anyway, give me something else, man. I'm loving this.
Well, so I primarily talk and present in three different areas. That's leadership, professional development, sales, and marketing we're just talking about. The underlying theme to all of it is really helping people figure out how to manage the perception of their value.
Okay.
So oftentimes when you start talking about valuable, people misconstrue like how good they are at doing something with their value. So if you're going to be successful in your career, we have to figure out how do you manage that? Like how do you manage the perception of your value so you can increase your influence? So whether or not you need that influence to be a leader or whether or not you need that influence just to move up the ladder, it kind of all goes together.
Sure.
So really the book is kind of tactical, but that's at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. How do I get put in a position where if the company says there's going to be mass layoffs, I already know where I stand. Right. You want to know kind of where you stand, and so that's what I talk a lot about.
Okay, excellent.
So I had lunch with a friend of mine probably about a year ago or whatever, and he asked me, so in 30 seconds or less, tell me how you become invaluable. So first of all, I kind of hate that question because it's not. If you really want to know, it's going to take
60 seconds.
I might be able to explain. I might be able to explain it in 30, but you're not going to get it in 30.
Right.
No.
Right. So
yeah.
Why? So I said, look, I'll give you. If I had to sum up my best piece of advice and put it in one sentence, here it goes. I said, figure out how to solve important problems for influential people.
Yeah.
Okay.
And don't interchange influential with important. Like it's important problems
for influential people. Gotcha.
So in that and so that's what the book really helps you do,
Nice.
right? It talks about how do you do that. So it talks about, in order to do that, you not only need a skill set so that you can actually solve problems, but you need to know what the problems are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, how many of us work for large corporations and never listen to like the quarterly meetings or any of that other stuff? We just we take our task list and we just go at it and we
Too
assume.
many people do that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then who's influential? Like that takes you can't just look at a title. Not every VP has influence.
Right.
Indeed.
Yeah.
You know, and I have some friends that started out as secretaries at smaller companies and now are executives at much larger companies.
Yeah.
Because they figured out who had influence.
Right.
Yes.
And they figured out
But
how
they
to
were
solve problems. Because what ends up happening is you become a problem solver for someone that has influence. So they'll
Yeah.
just kind of pull you up and you'll start solving different problems. And next thing you know, that you've increased the perception of your value.
Yeah.
And speaking about, some of earlier we spoke about the recent graduates of some of the classes that I do. And that's the big discussion. Like, some of these people are new to LinkedIn. So they go out to connect with people, but are you connecting with people that are influential? Like people that can really help you where you're at right now? Or are you just connecting with people because of a title and you believe them to be important? Because sometimes you can connect all day, but if Alberta's the one getting people in front of the hiring manager, that might be the connection you want to make, know? So
Yeah.
I get it.
And it's hard. Like, you don't necessarily know, but it's, once again, if you want to become invaluable, like you have to figure it out.
Yeah.
You have to start asking questions and start observing and just kind of see how things are going. And I don't care if it's a 2 to 3 person mom and pop shop or, a very large Fortune 100 company.
It's a whole other skill set too, is what I need to read your book. But it's developing. Yes, that's right. We all need to read it. Everybody get out there, get on Amazon. But it just sounds like a whole other skill set for a professional to develop in order to keep developing also.
Absolutely. You're right.
That's a great question. Yeah. I mean, that's a great analogy. Just,
you
have to develop that skill set as well.
Right.
Nice.
In order to keep growing and
Which is why, unfortunately, most of my talks I don't do to people that are like just going out of school. Like I've done some university talks around a variety of things, but when you start talking about becoming invaluable, like you got to get a skill set. You have to understand, like having a skill set and working hard is just the minimum.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And a lot of a lot of 21, 22-year-olds are just trying to figure out how to work on the skill set. So I get it. So get that first. And then as soon as you get that, then you can start working on some of these other things.
I'd like to speak about that some more when we come back after the break, because I think I want to speak about some of the topics that you're speaking on right now that you believe are touching the pulse of your audience, but also just any advice that you can share with that population you just spoke about, that demographic. So we'll be right back. It's the Career Seeker Show live, WPPM.
You're listening to the
106.5 Philadelphia. Let's go.
WPP.5
All right, so let's bring it back. So we were having some conversations prior to coming on board, just about some of the things that you're seeing as important out here as you take on opportunities to share your message. What particular topics, titles are you touching on that you believe are really, really connecting with your listeners and your audience?
I have seen a lot lately as it relates to leadership. So a lot of kind of leadership development type presentations companies are asking for. I believe effective leadership is all about influence and not authority. And I think when we don't recognize that as an organization, as a company, we end up interchanging leader and manager. And so we work on making better managers, but not better leaders.
Okay.
And there, to me, there's a huge difference in managers versus effective leaders.
Okay.
So do a lot of talking about that. Once again, though, it's this whole becoming the invaluable leader is really more along the lines of what we talk about, and we go through how do you really maximize your influence. So it all circles back to that same theme of maximizing your influence.
So do you do workshops around that, or is it just kind of speaking and engaging, letting them share? How do you?
So both.
Okay.
Both. Last week it was a workshop put into about an hour and a half. So it was mostly speaking with some activities to show and demonstrate to people the concepts that we were talking about. But it could be a 4-hour workshop if we stretch it out. Could be an 8-hour workshop. I've done longer workshops if you're dealing with management teams and you really need to define some goals and like work through that process versus understanding what just a good goal is. So we do
both. I'm sure with the teams too, it's all about personality and getting to know them a little bit to see how they interact. And,
it is. Yeah. So but it's like I said, it's a popular topic because what ends up happening is, if you start concentrating on making better managers, you end up with companies whose active engagement is relatively low, right? So a lot of times people get promoted based upon how well they complete tasks, and it has nothing to do with helping others complete their tasks.
If they can manage people,
they're just completely two different concepts. So you hope people that are really good at completing their task are also going to be really good at helping others. But that's not always the case, right? Yeah. Why I'm motivated is different than why you're motivated. So if I only work the way I'm motivated, that doesn't necessarily help either one of you two. So you kind of get into that a lot, and you get all these definitions that talks about leaders or visionaries and this and that, and then I go through this exercise in the workshop where I throw up like these most popular brands and their vision statements and see if people can recognize what company we're talking about.
Oh, so wow. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, they typically can't. So there's a whole lot that goes into the whole getting people motivated and being able to influence others. And another big thing about that is I approach it from the perspective of it really is about influence, not authority. So we really are talking to anybody inside the organization. So whether you have a title or not, whether you're managing a team or not, concepts are still the same because you want to be able to influence people that you're working with, people you're working for. And, if someone's working for you, you want to be able to influence them as well. So we talk about all those things.
Wow. I think maybe we need that, have our own little team retreat, right?
Yeah, maybe we can, I don't know, ride Donald to the airport or something. Like, we can ride him to the airport and go over this. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. As you're out and you come into an organization, so, and I don't mean to go into like how you prepare from a business standpoint, but I just from conversations that we've had, I would imagine that there's a wheelhouse for you. Like there's certain types of organizations that you target, whether it be size or who they service. But is that the case?
The industry or the vertical,
I would say my wheelhouse is not necessarily organization focused, because I'll talk to whatever organization is interested in hearing me speak on the topics that I typically talk on. From a people perspective, it's my wheelhouse are typically people that are kind of mid-career. So those people that are looking around and like, I'm not making any more money than I did 10 years ago. Or people that are like, I've been in this role and I've been doing really, really well for 15 years and I don't understand why I haven't gotten promoted. Right? So it's those kind of people, and they have to be motivated. It's kind of funny, in theory, we're motivational speakers.
I was going to say, but you're doing both. That really goes into.
I say they have to be motivated because I don't really believe I motivate people. Like I can inspire and empower you, so I can give you information so that if you're motivated, you can use it. You're not really motivated. You're just not going to use it.
Just listening.
Right?
Okay. All right. I see that.
It's not going to work. But for those folks that are like, okay, how does this really work? Like I'm doing the job. I'm showing up. I'm open to hearing how I go from, mid to upper level or entry to mid level, or obviously just working hard doesn't necessarily get you. Now it used to. Yeah, and then I
was going to say, a lot of people the information they received even from a child is that if you work hard, you'll get rewarded.
Right. That's definitely what we were
and especially,
told.
A certain generations.
Absolutely.
Like but to your point, that's really not how it works.
No.
Right now, there has to be some strategy.
My dad, both my parents have passed. My dad was a government worker, so it literally was lockstep.
Exactly.
And my mom retired as a lieutenant colonel in the Army. So
wow.
Like it just, for those, for the VA hospital and the Army, you show up, work hard, and
you do.
You'll get to where you want to be.
Right, exactly.
You'll get great retirement benefits and all that. But for everyone else, it just. it's more to it than you think about.
A lot of times you have to go. Well, I know in my career a long time ago, I had to go to another company in order to be promoted, and it was either because just wasn't recognized for it yet, or there were people. There's a ceiling. I would have had to stay there a while.
You know, just for the entire room for that matter. Sometimes there are some other things that you can see that say, I'm a woman. I might need to go in another direction to a company that kind of values what I bring as a woman as well. Or, you know, if you're an African-American male, sometimes you might need to get out of the way of some people and go somewhere else to be treated fairly. And that's just real.
Yeah.
You know, people don't like to bridge that conversation. But
you have to.
The bodies are on the ground.
Yeah.
I mean, you got this is the conversation.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Yeah, after you step over enough of them, you're like, okay, let me stop.
Let me step
to
to
the
left or to the right. Right. Exactly. You know, I was and looking at the title of your book, and you speak about perceived value, and I think that probably gets in a lot of people's way. You know, you're perceiving your value as being something that's clearly not based on the results.
Absolutely, and it's really other people's perception of you.
There you go.
Right,
okay,
right? It's not your perceived
perception,
value.
right?
Because even things as simple as I try and tell people, you need to understand what your unique business value is. And when I ask people to tell me what their unique business value is, all they do is tell me how they're good at what they do. And I say, well, yeah, but that doesn't necessarily make you unique, right? So if I hire you, I give you some tasks, you complete the task. That's nothing special to me, right? The same way I expect you to do that, the same way you expect the check to clear, right? So we're not really gaining anything by you just doing that and me paying you. We need to figure out how to be.
And that's the resume piece. You know, when people list their duties and responsibilities versus accomplishments and wins. It's like, well, yeah, we expected you to answer the phone. Like you're the receptionist.
Right.
You know, like that's, but, not to take it to that level, but you understand the point. Like people, they'll say, well, what's your value? Well, I answer the phone. Okay, well, that's your job, right? Like we pay you.
Yeah.
So
I was having that conversation. I was working with a Penn student who has, I guess, become, as of last week, a mentee of mine. I don't know.
You said that people are free to call you.
Don't put him in my time slot, Donald. Do not put this student in my time slot.
And he was supposed to have sent me the resume so I could send it to you. Anyway.
Okay.
But I had that exact conversation with him. I'm like, son, there's no, and he had 4 jobs. So for a college student, 4 jobs, that's
That's
pretty
really
good.
good. Yeah.
But you need some more meat, some more accomplishments to it. So no, I absolutely agree with you. People don't necessarily think that way. The other thing I think, when people are trying to advance in their career, I think they always should be in a situation where they're trying to figure out how they impact the bottom line.
Right.
So if you're in a revenue generating position, that becomes fairly easy. But if you're not, you still need to think about it because that's the way decisions are getting made.
Right.
So, and folks don't understand that. So when I'm a company executive and we need mass layoffs, like in that situation I described to you, no one's looking at reviews. No, they're looking at
numbers.
How does this, and if I get rid of this person, does it mean this or does it mean that? So as you go throughout your job, even if you're not tied directly to a revenue generating role, always figure out how you can decrease costs or increase revenue. Right? It may be, it could be any number of things that you simply do. I have a really good friend of mine. We went to Penn. He went to Harvard Business School, top-notch consulting. We were together in Austin, and I think we were both on the business development side, but essentially what he did was figured out how to take something we were spending a lot of money on, and he turned it into a product.
Nice.
Oh.
He's
like, why don't we sell this?
Okay.
And his career after that point, it was a completely different thing for him. Now, he was always a smart guy, and he always worked hard and still is, like one of the brightest people I know. But just by flipping one switch, he goes from being average manager to vice president to blah, 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 blah. And he's just taken off. You
spoke about some of the professional speakers that you listen to, and I listened to quite a few as well. But I think that's the piece a lot of them speak about is how often do you think? Do you even set time aside to think? And it sounds like your friend there just decided, you know what? Let me step away from doing it and think about it.
Right.
And the idea
there
came.
It was, yeah.
This thing called life just takes us
Boy, I know that.
and makes us not really concentrate on some things because we're concentrating on other things.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm.
But no, you're absolutely right that let me just sit and think about how I'm perceived. Like, what is such as, because we'll sit there and argue with how we might be perceived.
Yeah, arguing with how someone else perceives you.
Like
Yeah.
you can't win that. Well,
Yeah.
she thinks or he thinks well, guess what? You work for that
That's
person.
real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That matters.
Yeah.
That matters. So,
Yeah.
and that's why, like I said, it's not just, it's not a manipulative thing, right? It's not running into work one Saturday and posting on Facebook that you're at work, like trying to imply that you're there every Saturday.
Right.
Or sending 3 a.m. emails.
Exactly. I've done that before. Let's cue it up.
Yeah, no, seriously.
Because I wake up during the middle of the night and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to send it at 4 a.m.
Yeah. There we go.
That's right.
Most of it. Yeah, that's not what we're talking about.
No.
Exactly. So Donald, please, any closing remarks that you'd like to part on our listeners? I definitely want you to let people know how to get in contact with you, but even something more valuable than that, of course. But I'd like for you to share any parting information that you have.
So I could probably share a number of things. One thing that I just saw as I was literally glancing through the book an hour ago that really, I think as a country we need to actually understand this. I talk about at the end of the day, like I said, you want to be able to solve important problems for influential people. But a large part of that is if you do all this that I talk about in the book correctly, you still have to assure people on your ability to deliver, right? So I can position myself, I can get to the right people, I can get on the right project, but I need to convince them that I can come through. And a couple of things that need to be done in that process is remaining credible and being consistent. I don't know what's happened, but this whole credibility issue thing, I mean,
People
now
don't do what
we're
they
in a
say.
day and age where people feel like they can say anything.
Yeah.
Sure.
And some people do
Right.
Yeah.
and still
Other people think
ascend
it's
to certain
okay.
offices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you're in your career and like you have to be consistent and you have to be credible. Like you can have the greatest skill set, but if every time you tell me something, I have to think about whether or not it's actually going to happen or you're actually going to do it, it gets in the way of you gets in the way of you really advancing it. And once again, our environment is such that we think you could just say anything, or will it just come up with an excuse for something?
There's a lot of people that's all they
it's
do.
like that.
Yeah.
That negatively impacts the perception of your value, and you think, I mean, I know people. Oh, that sounded really good. Okay, I'm gonna use it.
Right.
Like, no,
They think
no.
an excuse is an okay reason, and that's a completely different.
Yes, you're always going to be stuck.
Yeah.
So how do our listeners stay in tune or in touch with Donald Hatter?
Absolutely. So you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. Twitter handle is dhatter Jr. So DHATTER Jr. And website is www.donaldhatter.com. So any of those means.
Man, we
work.
appreciate you coming out today. Thank you so very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we did it again. Man,
Yes.
listen, this
Thanks for
man
having
came
me. I
all the
enjoyed
way
it.
from Texas to spend some time sharing his information with the hometown team, the Career Seekers Show. We do it every Wednesday, 4 to 5, live on WPPM 106.5 here in Philadelphia, streaming live at phillycam.org. Everybody on the live stream, we appreciate you. All of our friends and family checking in on the East Coast Executive Facebook fan page. Thank you so very much as well. The Career Seekers Show, WPPM LP Philadelphia. We did it again. What's good, everybody? I want to thank everybody that checked in on 106.5 FM out here in Philly. Everybody that's checked in on the phillycam.org. Everybody that's checked in on East Coast Executives Facebook fan page. We really appreciate you, man, for listening. We know you got stuff to do, but you choose to spend an hour with us. Tiffany Southerland, on behalf of Tiffany Southerland and Alberta Blum, I'm sorry. It's the Career Seeker Show, man. We do it every week. WPPM LP Philadelphia. Let's go.